everyone, Paul ISM. Welcome to part 3 of the Tamiya 124th Mustang GT4 build. Before we get started today,
so make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you click the little bell notifications, get notified of all our latest videos, click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos, so if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there.
So back with part 3, very quick. I said I wanted to get it finished, and here we are. Today we're going to finish it off, final assembly, get all that body polished, get it all put together, and see what this beautiful car looks like. It is a stunning scheme. Obviously, I have it finished next to me here, and it looks great. So let's dive straight in and get cracking with the finishing part.
Okay, so straight into some carbon decaling. We've got the Scale Motorsport 1024, which is 1/24 twill weave carbon fibre in black computer. I'm going to quickly show you this rear diffuser being done, and then more in depth I'll show the front splitter because it's a slightly easier part to show on camera. So basically we cut out the rough shape of what we need, make sure we leave loads of overhang, pop it in our water. Once it's been there for a couple of minutes, we take it out, place the part over the piece we want to carbon as flat as possible, making sure we've got plenty of overhang because obviously we need to conform the decaling around the edges. So make sure you get it in place before you start to commit to brushing it down. And it's a case of literally letting the decal solutions do their work. So I will brush on several times. This is the normal UMP decal solution. Clean the brush off first, pop it on. We're just going to generously and liberally is the word I'm looking for, apply it all over the decal sheet. Get it as smooth as we possibly can and let it sit for 5 minutes. Come back, reapply several times until we get to this stage where we can start to really push down the decal around all those raised surfaces, get rid of all the wrinkles and bubbles and conforming it all around the edges of the part. So like I say, I kind of rushed this one. I didn't have full footage of this piece because the battery died halfway through, so I kind of caught the beginning and the end, but I always plan to show the front splitter, and I've got the entire process in real time but sped up, if that makes sense. So you see the entire process from start to finish, but I've sped it up a little bit. So once you're happy you've got all your air bubbles out, your creases, there are going to be compromises where you get to a point on a piece, maybe you've done it several times, you just think, okay, I'm going to have to settle for a slight imperfection or it not quite perfect, because it can take several goes to get this right. Just do it to the best of your ability and you will get better over time. But let the decal solutions do their work. Don't rush it. It's very good film and it does take a lot of stick. So our front splitter, like I said, I'm going to show this in full start to finish. I've sped it up twice the speed because obviously you don't want to be watching this for 10 minutes when we can watch it in 5. So we cut it out overhanging the edge of the splitter shape itself, and as we did with the rear piece, we're going to make sure we move it so we've got an overhang all around each part. Make sure we get it centralized, get as many of the creases out as we can now, and then we'll hit it with some normal UMP and we'll just let it sit, and then we'll come back, we'll apply a bit more, we'll work a bit with our brush. Just cut a little nick around the cocktail stick. It is super glued to that to make this a little bit easier to handle, and there you go. We're just smoothing it all out. There's nothing on here yet, just water, and there we go. We'll grab our brush. This is normal UMP decal solution. This is about the same strength as Microsol, but a little bit cheaper and easier to get as well. So we just pop that on, brush it over a couple of times, get rid of as many creases as we can without worrying about them too much. But just making sure that the decal sheet is in the right position. Work away the film, and we'll just leave it be. We'll just let it sit. Make sure it's all covered right where we want it. Like so. You can see we're starting to get the general shape already. But by letting the decal solution just sit there for 3 to 4 minutes per time, will allow it to soften the decal a bit, and then next time you come with your brush you can work away any excess bubbles or creases or anything that's not quite conformed, And it's patience. Patience is key with this. We've got 5 minutes, so you have to listen to me waffle. But once it's sat there for a minute or so, I'll come back. We'll put a little bit more decal solution on the brush. We'll give it a brush around again. We're using our tweezers. Like I say, this decal solution film is very, very tough. It's one of the toughest, most well, I can give it the most abuse I can give most decals to on this. It's very, very good stuff. You can stretch it, you can pull it, and it doesn't split. It takes quite a bit of abuse, and it's one of my favourite decals to use. Now, obviously, it's quite a small weave on 24. If you wanted to, and you wanted to make it really visible carbon, you could go to, say, 12 scale, but it can look a little bit over the top then. So it swings around about. So you either go with scale, or you go with an effect that you can see really clearly. Now on this, because it's a very prominent piece on the car at the front, hence the reason why we did that diffuser on the back first, as a test piece, we've gone with the 24, just to keep the scale effect. And all we're doing now is allowing that decal solution to work. You can see it's starting to soften the decal. So now we really need to start being careful. So use the brush, a little bit of pressure, not too much. And we're just literally pushing out any creases, any bubbles. Once we can start to see it starting to conform, we'll fold over the edges with our finger. Because once we get an edge on, it starts to keep its shape a bit more. Now if you start handling it with your finger now, be careful, because where your finger's just been, as you can see there, will leave a slight crease. So try and have something to hold it like this cocktail stick. And just take your time, let it go. Not like the snowman. Trim off any excess. And then underneath, this is probably the only piece I didn't think of underneath. I should have made it a bit more prettier underneath, because you can see this bit underneath. But I'm the kind of person that if you can't see it, well, what's the point? In a way, it sounds really bad saying that, but this isn't going to be really visible from underneath. But I wish I had kind of thought on. My first thought was there's another plate that sits underneath that it covered this. But it doesn't, it just sits in front of it. So in hindsight, going back, I'd have made it a neater underneath, but it is what it is. We got this down in one go. It went down really well on the top, so I wasn't going to take it back off. It's just one of those things. Should you want to, you could run a blade along the underneath and do the underneath separately to get it perfect. But for me, this was all dried and looking great until I realised, okay, you can see that underneath. Damn. So it's just one of those things. It's a compromise, like I say. Sometimes you got to think, oh well, it's just one of those things. As we can see, just a little bit of work. The normal UMP decal solution has really conformed that to the surface. We're hitting this with the strong now, just to get it finally in place. And this will really conform it into all the areas. You need to start being a little bit more careful now. And there we go. We'll leave it for a couple of minutes again, or a minute or so. Or 5 seconds. Then we'll come back, hit it over again with the brush. No more solution on this now. We're literally using the damp brush just to make sure those final little areas are all conformed, all folded over, all secure, and they're not going to come off. And then one final, go over the top, make sure we're into all those little recesses and gaps and imperfections, and that's it. Looks great. Do wish you'd taken a bit of time underneath. It is literally just one of those things. But there you go, 10 minutes in total, and we're done. Right, the car body, this has been curing now for, where are we? Probably a couple of weeks. So plenty of time for the 2K clear to fully cure. We're hitting this with 12,000 micromesh. In my opinion, it didn't need anything more. There was no real dust on this anywhere at all. It was a very clean 2K job. And all we're going to do is just take off that top layer. Now, a lot of people have said, well, a few people have said in the past, the 12,000 micromesh doesn't touch 2K. Well, it does. It dulls the upper surface ever so slightly. That combined with a decent polish is more than enough to lose that horrible, thick, toy-like look. If you want to go more aggressive, you can, but if there are no flaws in the paint, I don't see the point. 8,000 would be my maximum for this, but looking at it, the finish was really good out the gun, and it really didn't need anything more abrasive. So we've gone around the whole body. We're taking all the 2K back, Only a bit. It just takes literally the shine off it, a little bit of the high spots. Anywhere where the 2K is a bit thick, you can go over a little bit more. And this is up to your eye and judgment now, what you think. We're going around with a clean piece of tissue. Not the ideal thing to wipe down the model, but we're going to polish it now anyway. And we'll just clean up all the water spots, looking for any imperfections that could do with a sand, and working on them as well. Now we've got our UMP Ultimate Modern Products polish set. So in there you get a compound, which is an abrasive polish, a normal polish, which is less abrasive, a wax, and a detail spray as well. Now, depending on the type of finish you've got, it's again up to you. Do you need the harsher compound? Or, as on this Mustang, it's a good enough finish, we can get away with just the polish. So we've got our polish, we've got a clean microfiber cloth. We sell all these at umpretail.com, so you can head over there and have a look. We've got a little pot of water, just giving this a good shake up, because it does settle over time. Any polish you use at all, for any system, situation, it'll always settle by the nature of the product. So give it a really good shake up. We've got our microfiber, we're going to wet it, we're going to dab it into the polish. As so, a generous amount there, probably a little bit too much, but if you watched me before, you know I can put a little bit too much on. But there we go, we wiped a bit off. And now we're going to go over the entire body. But we're going to be careful of any raised areas, any edges, any lips, creases, anything like that at all. We don't want to put excess pressure on, because those places is where the paint is the thinnest, and it will burn through a lot faster than you think it can. It's quite surprising. It's caught me out before, but I'm very wary now, and I just take my time and work our way around the whole body. Now, what I tend to do is go around the whole thing, then come back on the near dry polish, give it another go over, because the cloth is still moist, so it does still hold a bit of polish. Let that dry to a haze, and then come back and buff it off. So this is where your attention to detail comes into play. Make sure you get everywhere. Keep an eye on those edges. Be very, very careful. It is very, very easy to burn through. Just take your time. Make sure you use a nice clean microfiber. Make sure you haven't had one that's been on the floor or been flying around the drawer, because you get a little bit of grit on there, or sanding, dirt or dust, it will leave a mark in the paint. So always make sure your microfibers are clean. Again, we sell these at UMP. They are washable. These have been washed many times in the past. Don't use any washing powders. Just wash them in warm water. No softeners or anything. And they come out like new again. There we go. That's now dried. So we're going to go around and give this a buff all over. So you probably will get some remnants of polish either underneath the body, in any recesses and panel lines. And it's a case of just going underneath, removing all the excess, get a little toothbrush into the panel lines, and just get rid of all that dirt, all that dust. It dries as a white powder. Just get rid of any contaminants off the body you can see. Again, attention to detail. Make sure you get all these parts. Again, be careful of the edges, because it will still burn through if you're not careful. We're getting a nice deep shine off this now, you can see. Once we get some of our detail spray on or wax on, and again, judge it by your car body. Does it need a wax? Does it need a detail spray? Only you can decide that. And there we go. That's the whole body polished up. All the excess polish removed. And we'll just give it a final buff all over to make sure we've got everywhere. And that we're happy with what we got. You can repeat this should you wish. You can start all over and flatten it again and go over compound if you find a flaw. But again, each situation is going to be different, and you are the person who will decide that. We do the spoiler as well, exactly the same. We've flattened it with the 12,000. Come with our polish, give it a quick polish up. Be very careful now on parts like this. We've got legs or edges. This is where they can break off quite easily. And just a quick test fit on the car, and yeah, still fits perfect. Window rubbers, one of the most tedious parts of car model building. It can be an absolute nightmare. There's lots of different ways to doing it. This is how I do it. I love the Azu tape. It comes from 0.4, 0.7, 1, 1.5, 2 and 2.5 mil thicknesses. It's as good a quality as Tamiya tape in my opinion. and I don't know how I ever managed without this stuff when I didn't use it, because there was many years I didn't have it, and it's absolutely inviolable now. So on the Mustang, there's only the side windows to mask, and it's not entirely the way around. So we're using the panel line as a guide, because there's a panel line there. Now, some of the decals have gone over that panel line by the way they work. So don't use the decal, use the panel line to follow the window rubber all the way around. So this is going to take several pieces of different thicknesses as well, and some cling film. So there we go. Once you're happy that piece is in place, we'll come back with another piece for the bottom. As you can see, I detack all my tape. I literally put it on my finger, take the excess stickiness off, line it up again with the panel line, or the panel edge, depending on what you've got. And just carefully take your time getting it in place. Use a cotton bud once you're happy it's in the right place to burnish it down to make sure you get a good edge. Any panel lines like that, make sure it's pushed in there too. There you go. Once you're happy, you can bring it up and curve it around the edge. So to curve around the edge, use your finger, hold it, bend it, move your finger up, bend it a bit more, check it, put your finger there, bend it round, finger again, and just keep doing this slowly, and you'll get a nice even curve all the way around where you need it. As you can see, like that. Make sure it's pushed in gently. Then we'll burnish it down with our cotton bud again until we're happy. So both sides are done. Now we've got some, I think this is the 2mm AZ tape now, might even be the 2.5. And we're going to place this next to the first piece we put on. What we're doing is we're progressively moving away from the window rubber with the 2mm, and then we'll come with a little bit of 6mm Tamiya, and then 18mm Tamiya on some cling film to mask the entire car body. Now, this is covered in full in my Subaru Techniques video, which is in the playlist on the channel. I have much more in-depth videos on all these techniques, so you will literally almost see from start to finish the window masking on one of the videos if you go and have a look. But in this, you know, these are my build videos. You don't want to see 40 minutes of me masking a window. We've got a lot to get through, so we just pick points and pertinent parts of it to do. So there's the 2mm all the way down. We'll do that on the bottom. We'll repeat for the other side. As you can see, there we go. So we know we're masked fully to the edge of the line. We know we're masked fully to the edge of that tape. And then when we come in with our 6mm, that gives us our point where our cling film. There's a few pieces at the front of the window you need to mask as well, which will all become apparent when you start to mask off the rest of the body. There we go. Tamiya 6mm, again, it has been detacked. And because this is a thicker tape, it will find it a bit more difficult to conform. So get the straight edge you can, put a little kink in it like that. Make sure it's burnished down and just follow it all the way down. Make sure it's fully burnished down with your finger or a cotton bud. Once you're happy, do that for all those pieces you just masked. Then we'll use some cling film, cut it to size, and mask the rest of the body off to save wasting tape. There we go, glass working out. Now thankfully this does come with a very comprehensive mask set, because there's quite a lot to mask in this. As you can see, several components. So we're going to start off the front windscreen. I have left it on the sprue for now to make painting easier. I do end up taking it off at the end, but the other pieces stayed on there, and it does make painting a lot easier. So on the front screen, you've got the lower panel where the window wipers sit that needs to be painted from the outside. So this is the exterior mask. So with these masks, as I say all the time, you will either get it on first time, or it'll take you about 13 goes to get it on there. Me, I got it in one go, very luckily. Once you're happy it's down, very gently burnish it down with a cotton bud, making sure those edges are properly burnished down because we don't want any bleed through. Once we're happy with that, we can mask off the top of the screen with normal Tamiya tape and then cut it gently to the edge of the screen. And then inside, there are two parts to mask the center of the screen, and they overlap in the middle. And again, first one went on perfect. This second one took a couple of applications to get it on, but once in place, we burnished the edges down, and we're good to go for some paint. So like I say, you need to paint both sides of the front windscreen. The others are only painted on one side. And there we go. So we're in the spray booth. We've got our Ultimate Black Primer. As you can see, the car body is all masked off with cling film and masking tape. We've got our UMP Apex, 0.35 needle, 25 PSI, and we're going to use UMP Black Primer to do our window rubbers and our window interior and exterior masking. So again, finally, make sure all those parts are burnished down. One last check. As you can see, the cling film does save wasting a lot of tape. I'm just going to lightly apply 2 or 3 coats, ensure a nice smooth even coverage. We're not hosing it on, because that's how we'll get bleed through. And we'll just take our time until we're happy. Get one coat down, put it to one side, work on the windows, and then come back and repeat as necessary. It'll take you 2 or 3 light coats to do. We also masked off our mirrors. These were a little bit tricky to do, but not too bad. The upper half is the fluorescent yellow, the lower half is black. So we carefully mask those off with the Azu tape again. And then our windows, this is our one very light coat. I'm just going to come in and give it a second, slightly heavier coat. Same with the side windows. Then we put them to one side, let them dry, and repeat as necessary. And there we go, that is it. Again, this is all covered in the video, Subaru Techniques video. Go and have a look, it is all covered in there. Next day, we remove all the tape. I like to let it dry personally. And we're choosing our tweezers to carefully remove all that masking. It can take you half an hour to mask, 30 seconds to unmask. It is a bit frustrating, it's a little bit time consuming and boring. But again, the time taken here shows off on the model. The more perfect you get these window rubbers, the more realistic the car will look. And these came out pretty well. We had a touch of overspray here and there. All we do is moisten the cotton board with some UMP airbrush cleaner. That doesn't really affect the 2K, and we very lightly run it over, and it will remove the water-based overspray. Right, this front screen. So take off the inner masks first. Very good masking set from Tamiya. It's always good to get these in the kits, because not all of them come with them, unfortunately. And then our exterior mask at the top, which is just Tamiya 18mm tape. Be very careful on masking, don't give too much pressure. I have seen people break these before. Just making sure we're all covered. And we are, looking very good. And we'll peel off our mask from the bottom of the screen as well. Tweezers, good quality tweezers are an absolute godsend for doing this. I need new ones. I've damaged mine, being silly with things I shouldn't be using them on, but they still work great. I could probably just give the point a little close together and it'd be great, but as you see, I have a little bit of trouble gripping the part there. And there we go, there's the mask off. Quick check, are we all done? Do we pull any paint off? Is any bleed through? No, they are looking great. So once we're happy, we've got another clean, not the one we used before, we don't have any polish on these. Another clean microfiber cloth. I'm just going to get a wipe over to get any glue residue off the super glue, the masking tape off. And just buff it to a high shine. Make sure we've got no overspray. If you do get overspray, a little bit of airbrush cleaner, UMP airbrush cleaner like this. Rub it over, we'll take it off. So the vents, I've done 2 of them already. They literally friction fit in place really well. Now what you need to be careful of when using the likes of 2K, because they're a thicker clear coat, it does make parts like these a little bit tighter to fit. So when you're pushing them through like this, you do run the risk of pushing the 2K through the top. So it's a chance you take. If you're not keen on doing that, you could always sand inside the part. But again, you run the risk of damaging the 2K. So I always just go for it, push them in place that we have here. Once you're happy, a couple of dabs of CA glue inside, in strategic places out of the way, using our Precision Perfect pen. I'll get its name right one day. We've got some of the Deluxe Materials Kicker in one of our paint cups with a micro brush. Just touch it to it, and it instantly dries the CA glue. Rear exhausts are in 2 parts. They're already chromed. You just need a careful application of CA glue, pushing together, and that is those done. This is where you need to start being careful and meticulous on not getting CA glue on your fingers, because in the wrong hands, it's terrible stuff. It will get everywhere. I put fingerprints on car bodies, you name it, I've done it like a pillock. So we glue this together. There's a locating point on this rear bumper, well, diffuser, exhaust port, I suppose we could call it. So you can see we pop it in place, pop a little glue around the edge, spin your cocktail stick, and it puts the glue inside. And then we hit it with some kicker. And there we go. Repeat for the other side, and on we go. Now, 2 parts that need painting, and you'll see now why I love LP Tamiya paint so much. This is unprimed plastic, and we need to paint it red. So, again, we've got some X7 Tamiya LP. Just check the time. Yeah, it's that time. We'll come back with a micro brush again, and we're going to brush paint these parts, and you'll see just how well this stuff covers. Completely unprimed. That paint isn't thinned at all. Just allowing a generous amount on the micro brush. And just painting it up by hand. Works absolutely perfect. It might seem lazy, but on doing 2 very small parts like this, it saves cleanup of a brush. These micro brushes are dirt cheap. Once you painted with them, you can take the end off and use them to mount parts on, as a glue applicator. They've got many uses, and they are one of my favourite tools. I wouldn't say they were the cheapest, but they're certainly not the dearest. Once you've used them, you'll find them absolutely invaluable. And for touching up parts like this, they're quick, simple, and easy. They're good for cleaning your airbrush. They've got a multitude of uses, and I highly recommend using them. Again, everything I use in these videos you can find in the description. Head on down there. It takes you a big long list of all the items I use. I do need to update it because some of the products aren't shown properly. But have a look down there and you'll find all these parts. Right, the rear light lenses. Best way of doing these, as I found out, as my friend Alan told me, was to brush paint them. So we've got some Vallejo model colour black. I'm just going to gently brush paint all around those areas. Look at your instructions, it shows you where to paint. And then once that's dry, we can come in and paint the centres in clear red. So it's a bit fiddly, but there we go. This is finishing off the second one. It is nice to get back to brush painting occasionally. And there we go, some nice careful brush painting. And we didn't do too bad a job on those. Take your time, thin your paint with a little bit of water, doesn't need a lot. And just carefully brush all that black work in. Couple of decals to do on the front lower lights as well. So again, pop them in. Same decal procedure as before. These are the Tamiya ones out of the kit. A bit of UMP strong this time, straight on there. Conform them round again, and they're ready to go. These parts have now dried. We've got our Tamiya LP. Oh, it is 52. Clear red. We've got another micro brush again. What we're going to do, we're going to apply this quite thick, let it pool on the lights. And a couple of applications. It dries very quick, being lacquer paint, really fast. Until you're happy you've got the transparency and everywhere is covered properly. Have a good look from the other side, because that's the side you'll see. Put them on side to dry. Once you're happy, we can get them in place. Now we are cleaning up our light lenses. So these are the 2 that go in the front. And behind it, that black panel goes, we just decaled. So we clean them up using the 400 customizable and the buffer. And then a little dab of CA glue. Pop it in place. Push it down with our tweezers. Job's a good one. Repeat for the other side. Then we can come in and put that panel we just applied those light decals to. And there we go, front panel in. Again, beautiful fixture. As you can see, we put one of our toe hooks in there, toe and eyes in there. And again, make sure it's in the right position. A little bit of CA glue behind again. We'll hit it with our kicker, and that's that glued in place. Put the glue in from behind. Number one, make sure the part's in the right place to begin with. There's nothing worse than putting the glue in, putting the part in, it slips, you get glue on a piece that you don't want to get glue on, you can see it from the outside, you get glue on your fingers and it looks terrible. I like to get the part in place just like this. Make sure it's in the right position. Make sure we're happy, then glue it in place. So that's what we've done on the front. We've got our rear diffuser bumper section now, which has all been placed in. Again, applying the CA glue from behind, a little bit of kicker. This is where we need to be ultra careful now on super glue marks. Make sure you're not getting on your fingers. If you're in doubt, wipe your fingers every single time you touch anything else, because it's so easy to ruin things and it starts to ruin all your hard work. You don't want to get fingerprints on all this beautiful LP5 black that we did. And there we go. Rear lights, these have all fully dried now. Refer to the instructions, get them orientated the right way. Pop them in place. And again, we hit them with the CA glue from behind. Like so. Just pick a strategic point. There's always locating parts. So pick those because they're the furthest away from the body. So we've got a central panel to go in now as well. And again, we just get it in place, then we'll glue it in. Trust me, this is one of the easiest and safest ways of doing this. Saves a lot of heartache. I've ruined so many models of super glue. I am ultra careful now. I only use super glue on the interior part, where it can't be seen from the outside. Generally, I will use PVA based glue for the exterior. But there we go, it's starting to look the part. That toe and eye in red looks absolutely fantastic. You can see just how well those LPs brush paint. Rear covers for the lights now. These are chromed out the box. Again, get them in place. Dab the CA glue where they go and push them in place. And jobs are good. Go through so many cotton buds and micro brushes with the CA glue, but it works well, so why not? Front light lenses now, so several components here. We've got a clear part, a chrome part, and a part we've painted in Tamiya LP5. So we'll pop our clear part in first. Oh, we'll flick it instead with the chrome piece. So make sure we've got the right piece. Look at your instructions, it'll show the orientation that it goes. Grab our clear part, use our tweezers for ease. Pop it in, push it home. Then we'll grab some Tamiya extra thin and just apply a small bead around the edge. Then a dab of CA glue where the chrome part goes. Again, refer to instructions, they only go one way. Pop them in. Jobs are good, both of those are done. And we can install these like the rest of the part, get them in place. Make sure they're orientated the right side. Dab of CA glue. The clear lenses are already in there. We did that earlier, off camera. They're just gently glued in place. And then we'll come in, pop our light unit in. And again, pick a couple of points from the away from the body. A couple of dabs in. The idea is to just get it around the edge and to touch the part. And then the CA glue will hold it perfectly. Right, front rear windscreen are in. The front and rear windscreen are in. Same method we're doing here. We get them in place. Pick a point furthest away from the glass. Dab of CA glue. Again, there's usually always locator parts that overhang away from the glass. So they're the points to use. Anywhere that stays away from the main body. Dab of CA glue. A dab of kicker. Activator, whatever you want to call it. And that's it, they're in place. Be very careful to CA glue it again, because it's easy to ruin things or get a tiny little mark on the window at the back like I did. Not on this one, on the main window at the back, right at the bottom, I got a tiny little piece on there. It was already glued in place, so I probably would have tried to sand it out, but you could barely see it, and I thought, you know what? Let's leave it be. Every model's got an imperfection. They all have, all mine have. It's just one of those things by the nature of what we do. Mirrors, these have been unmasked. We've got our chrome inserts to pop in, so make sure you get the right ones. Make sure you get them the right way. Now, having 2K'd these, it does have a bit of thickness, so you can usually just push them in with your fingernail carefully, like so. Give it a tap, make sure it doesn't fall off. Now, the window mounts on these, the wing mirror mount, sorry. It's a good system. It's a little lug that goes in the slot, but it's too thin. So I need to widen it a bit. So I've got my little battery-powered drill, which before anybody asks, you can't buy these anymore, sadly. But I'm sure if you look around, you can find some sort of variant elsewhere. So we just widen it up. Give it a little wiggle in. And there we go. Repeat for the other side. But yeah, it definitely does need a bit of material removing from that hole. Underneath where the mirror comes through, we'll add a dab of CA glue just to hold it in place. Do that for both sides. Now, we've got some Deluxe Materials gluing glaze. There are two little panels, I assume they're vents on the side. They need gluing in place. These were painted in LP5 ages ago. We're just going to carefully place them in. So these are parts you do not want to use super glue on, CA glue, because if you don't get this right first time round, you're going to make an unholy mess. Been there, done it before. Patience is required with this kind of glue because it can take a while to dry. But trust me, waste half an hour waiting for a piece of glue to dry rather than ruining a whole day's work by getting CA glue everywhere. Been there, done it. It's not worth it at all. So we just locate this part. It's got white glue inside. Push it in with our tweezers. Wipe off the excess and just leave it be for a little bit and it will dry absolutely perfect in there. There we go. Not too bad. Repeat for the other side. And we're done. Door handles, exactly the same. I've ruined so many paint jobs by using CA glue here. Do not do it. It's not worth it. Get your PVA based glue. I use glue and glaze. There's loads of them out there. Let it sit for 10 minutes in the pot before you use it and it goes really tacky. And then just a couple of dabs where you need it. Get everything located. Push it in place. And just leave it the hell alone. It is surprisingly strong at holding parts. Now, the only part that wouldn't hold on with the PVA was the rear spoiler. There was a little bit too much spring in the mount. So, a careful couple of dabs. I'd already made sure it fits perfect. And I knew if I lined one side up, it would reach the other perfectly. So, a couple of dabs in the locating holes. We're going to locate the top piece first. So, carefully, yeah, get it locating the holes and then line it up, push it down, hold for a second, and there we go. Job done. Couple of decals to go on. These couldn't go on before. We had to wait to get these parts on. So we've got a sun strip. So just line it up, remove all the excess. I don't use any decal solutions on any parts that aren't going to be cleared or on exterior parts. I found it can cause streaking on the parts before. So I tend to not bother setting these in place. Loads of people have said that over time they come off. None of mine have ever come off. I've got dozens of them in the display case that have been built over the last 4 years and they've never come off to this day. There's a few decals on the back, but just refer to your decals on whatever version you're building or what needs putting on afterwards. So, sadly, I threw away the bonnet pull release handle hatches, whatever you want to call them, on the front. I have no idea where they've gone. They would have been painted in black and then inserted in place. So I very nearly put the build on hold and thought I'm going to have to order another sprue. And I thought, you know what? Let's improvise, adapt and overcome. So we've got some of our model colour black. We haven't thinned it. We've got quite a generous amount on our micro brush and we just filled the recess. As simple as that. We'll let that dry overnight. We'll come back in more of a dry cotton bud and just gently rub over the top. It'll take off any excess, and to be honest, I couldn't even notice the difference. So this is a part we carboned off camera, and this is the part I thought covered this front splitter, and at this point I thought, oh crap, it doesn't. But never mind, it's one of those things. It's got a few very small fiddly locating parts on the front to get on. Same on the back, couple of dabs of CA glue, we get this rear diffuser in. Beautiful little part carboned up this. You can see the locating points underneath. Get them to the right angle. They just sit in perfectly with that. I didn't show the body being put on this. I missed out doing it again. But it goes on like any other body. Very simply, line up the rear parts, slot it in place, job done. And then there's those two side skirts just to glue in place like we did with all the other plastic parts earlier on. Now, at the finishing touches, we've got some UMP Shine spray. So let's put a little bit on our nice, clean microfiber. This is a new microfiber every time. We don't want to contaminate this with a polish. We're just applying a couple of sprays on there. Go around the entire car, giving it an even coat, let it dry to a haze, and then we'll come back and buff it to a high shine. It's a pretty looking car. The highlight of my bench, the highlighting system, really doesn't do the colour justice at all. It looks very, very, what's the word? Like a bland yellow here. Not as vibrant as it is in real life. We'll see that in pictures in a minute. But yeah, great. It's worked really well. The polish system from myself and Late UMP works absolutely fantastic. Gives a nice deep shine. You can wax it to protect it, or just go over it with the spray like I do from time to time. And then once that's dried, come back and buff it off. As simple as that, nice and easy. Just noticed there we might loosened our front diffuser. Splitter, sorry, so we'll put that back on in a minute. I'm just going to go around, make sure it's all buffed up. As you can see, I'm wearing a glove, because you don't want to buff it up to a nice finish and then get a fingerprint everywhere. So we just literally gently do it. We've got our air jack valve on the top to pop on as well. That was just painted silver, painted in clear Tamiya LP blue, and then a dab of CA glue popped in place. Job's a good one. It was on there. It's just fallen off, and I haven't realised yet, but I'll find it in a minute. And we'll pop it back on in place. And there we go. We've got a nice paint job. Beautiful colour. Nice looking car as well. And what a great kit to build. It really was. Even though with the problems we had, and delays and what have you, it did have a detrimental effect to the old Mojo. But there we go. And as you can see, she turned out beautiful. That colour is phenomenal. It's a very, very striking car. Absolutely lovely colour. Lovely decals as well. And I'm very, very happy with this. So to recap, we primed this. I think it was Ultimate White Primer. It's been that long now, I forget. It was base coated in no, it wasn't Tamiya. It was Gravity Fluorescent Yellow. We used the Blue Stuff decals because the Indy cars let us down. Blue Stuff decals went down absolutely fantastic. It was clear coated in Gravity Spain 2K Clear. Wheels were painted in LP20 gunmetal, all for the UMP Apex airbrush, which performs absolutely faultlessly. We've got some Scale Motorsport carbon here and there on the exterior and interior. We gave it all a buff up and polish with some micro mesh and the UMP polish system. And I'm very happy with how it looks. As a kind of out-the-box build, bar the PE seatbelts, ribbon seatbelts, and the Volt decals. Very nice kit to build. A little bit fiddly, I'm not going to lie. It is a little bit fiddly in places. If we hadn't had all the drama with the mucking about with the decals, I think this would have been a nice quick build. We've done it in 3 parts, and I think it's turned out really well. And there we go. So some nice pictures to finish the build off with. And the final one is in my scale production display. And there we go. Let's go back to me and have a little chat about the build.
Okay, then there we go. So, what do I think? Good kit. Very, very good kit. The build is a little bit tainted because of the problems we had at the start for me. And it kind of dragged on for that reason because it was nearly 3 months ago I started this. And with one reason or another with the issue with the decals, and what have you. I think it kind of tainted the build a bit for me, but we got there in the end. The mojo was lacking a bit in places. Kit's gone together very well. It sits a little bit higher on the right-hand rear side, unfortunately, but I've tried everything to get it to sit. It's about mil high, and it just won't come down. So I must have not quite glued something in place, or I don't know. If anyone's built the kit and that's the same issue, please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear. But overall, very good kit. The Volt paint, Volt decal scheme looks absolutely superb. I'm very happy with that. So I hope you've liked the build. If you've got any comments or questions, pop them down below, and I do read and answer all of them. I'm going to be quick today because my camera battery is flashing. I've got all this footage to edit, all the pictures to edit, to get it all together in this video for you. So as always, check out Untitled Scale Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, where you can get this kit and loads of all the products you'll see in this video. Check out the ISM Facebook page and forum. I think I've already said that. My Paul ISM page, Off Air Hangout group, the live at the show page for all the live show and Off Air Hangout news. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I will be back soon with another part of the Impala. So thanks for watching today. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.